You're listening to a MonkeyBuns Production.
Hello everyone, it's me Alfie. Welcome to Alfie Pod's Fantasy Footy. And the show today is Will I Beat Magnus? And you're here for it. Isn't that nice? It is nice actually. I'm joined today by Matt, Bowstring The Carp, Matt Kearney, fresh from his Twitter breakdown from Game Week 9. And of course Will. Will hasn't been with us a couple of weeks because he went to Colombia. He's still in Colombia. He's moved there for half a year, and it's a good decision. Sounds like a good decision to me. So he's back, and he's very excited at the moment because he's a Spurs fan, and apparently they're doing quite well at the moment. So someone said to me, come on, you Spurs. So I hope you wanted a good Game Week 9. I hope it was a pleasant weekend. I think it was for a lot of people. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just guessing. I did all right. I got 82 points. I'm well happy with that because it's 82 points. You know, Captain DCL, very smug about that. Had Luca Dean in there. Had Richarlison, who I bought in the week before for this fixture, and he repaid me, thankfully. And things went well, but Game Week 10 is on the horizon. So Game Week 10, we're going to discuss many things leading up. Matt is playing his Wildcard this week. He had a bit of a Game Week 9 meltdown. Those of you who follow on Twitter... Anyway, we talk about that. It wasn't anything too mad. It's just the Twitter bubble makes it seem worse than what it is, and people can't see your face when you're writing stuff, whether you have a smile on it. I know I struggle with that. Anyway, so we're going to talk through Matt's wildcard selections. He's going to talk through all of the choices: defence, midfield, attack, the possible dropping of the Spurs duo, Kane and Son, of course. He's massively conflicted at the moment. I feel like he's putting himself under pressure, but he doesn't need to. He's still smashing most people. But, he has high standards, and that's what happens. Will be discussing Spurs, of course, and what else do you need to know about that? But he's very articulate and very good at expressing, it's not like a Spurs fan saying things, don't worry about that. It's good to have. They've got two contrasting opinions, do Matt and Will, but at the same time, both of them make sense. So throughout this pod, if you hear me somewhat agreeing with everyone, it's because I kind of do, because they both make valid points. And football is always about a flip of a coin, isn't it? So anyway, I'm going to stop rabbiting on. I'll join you halfway through to say hi, and I'll let you listen. FPL, I want to be champion.
Success. Take it down now! Will I be Magnus? Or is this madness? Will I be Magnus? I got to beat that Magnus.
Welcome everyone. I'm of course joined by the wonderful Matt Kearney. How are you, Matt?
Good, Alfie. How are you?
Good. I'm not sure you are good, but we'll come to that. And pleased to say, back to the pod, calling all the way from Colombia. Sorry, Matt, I know Ireland's just as exotic, but calling all the way from Colombia is Will. Hi, Will.
Hola, Alfie. ¿Qué tal?
¿Qué tal? Bueno. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias.
Okay, dos cerveza, por favor. Good. So,
on their way.
How are you, mate? How's Colombia?
I'm very good. I'm very happy, settled in Colombia now, where I'm hopefully spending the next 6 months. The weather's decent. We have had a massive hurricane that went to the north of Colombia, about 1,000 kilometers to the north, but we were still affected by it down here, in Medellin. We've had quite a lot of rain. So it's only the last few days the weather's got a bit better. But
all going off in Colombia then, COVID aside.
It's been pretty, yeah. And then you've got COVID on top of it. So that's been pretty crazy. Yeah.
But the good news, sorry, Will, the good news is that Spurs are doing well though.
Yeah, back to the football. And we really should be 4 points clear at the top of the league after dropping points against West Ham and Newcastle. But we're top, which is incredible. Top,
look pretty solid. So you managing to watch much football out there? I'm guessing that it's broadcast quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of European football broadcast over here, so every single Premier League match is on telly. Along with Bundesliga, La Liga, Portuguese league, and everything. Serie A, we've got the lot. So it's very easy to watch. In fact, there was last week, you think about the reach of the Premier League, I was watching a local match, not on one of the main big TV stations over here, ESPN or Fox, or the American ones that show all the foreign league. Was watching Atletico Nacional, the local team, and suddenly during the commentary they start talking about Pickford and Van Dijk, and it's like, and I just thought it was incredible. I thought this is not one of the main TV channels, and yet here they are talking about that challenge that Pickford made on Van Dijk during the middle of a Colombian match.
Were they, because Colombia has history in, should we say, aggressive football? They normally shoot a few players dead every now and then. Was their take on, did Pickford do anything wrong in their eyes?
Oh, they were just debating it. They were split on it. Although I must admit, the commentators speak pretty fast. So I was trying to keep up with my basic Spanish. But I managed to pick up Pickford and Van Dijk. I think they were debating it basically.
Fair enough. That sounds like fun. So you've been managing to keep on top of your FPL, of course. You're still writing and everything. How did you get on this week? Actually, you did pretty well, didn't you? What did you get? Did you get 70 something?
No, I got 68, but I took an 8-point hit.
Ooh.
Which was uncharacteristic of me. But
who did you take the 8-point hit on?
Well, it was going to be a 4-point hit, and then with Salah ruled out, it became an 8-point hit. So I brought in sort of switch formation with Trent Alexander out. I switched from a back four to a 3-4-3. So I brought in upgraded Brewster to Calvert-Lewin, which worked very well.
Good shout.
And I brought in Van Aanholt, who I thought looks excellent for Crystal Palace against Leeds, especially with Eze playing in front of him, because Eze's not the one who kind of drives to the line. He kind of holds the play and he's quite good at keeping possession and playing balls through him. And Aanholt was making overlapping and underlapping runs. And he did, again, against Burnley. I mean, he was attacking, which is what I wanted. And he's got a nice 3 set of fixtures. So it's Newcastle next, which is all right. He only got 2 points against Burnley, but hoping for more. But you never know. 2 good fixtures coming up. And then maybe switch back to Trent Alexander-Arnold when he's fit again. And then it became an 8-point hit when I did Salah to Grealish, thinking that I'd probably want Grealish long term anyway. And I half thought Salah might be out for a bit longer than he is. He's probably back today for the Atalanta game.
Well, there's question marks over Barkley at the moment now, isn't there? So Grealish seems like the natural choice. Have you heard anything? Have you guys heard anything about Barkley, actually?
Well, I actually thought Barkley hindered Villa as a whole. I mean, Barkley's really good at playing. He was, because against Arsenal, he was kind of good. He was inside. He was the one who played the ball through to release Target when Target crossed and there was an own goal for the opening goal, I think it was. And then he made the first time pass to Watkins for his goal, first goal. And I think Barkley really frees up, because Grealish is excellent. He can occasionally, against a set defence, he occasionally holds onto the ball for too long and he gets fouled rather than beating the player. You know, he does get fouled a lot, which is great for winning free kicks and set pieces, but it's not great when you want a player like Watkins, who I think needs quick ball. I think Barkley provides that more than Watkins. And by having Barkley, it also allows Grealish to play a bit further forward. And so I think the loss of Barkley is actually not good for Villa in general. But I'll probably hold on to them. I mean, their fixtures are so good. You've got to kind of think you hold on to them for now, don't you?
You do, yeah, I think so. So you're doing quite well, Will, actually. 68 points, which takes you up to 5th in the most important league in the whole fantasy football, and that's Alfie Pod's Fantasy Footy League, which consists of 35 teams now. The best performing team, it was not me, actually. I got 82 points. I'll get it out there early. Yeah, I'll get it out there. But I was quite confident before this game week. I think I told you guys, I was like, I don't understand this calm. I expect all my team to score, and they kind of did. Some very good scores in all this league, actually. An awful score. There's an awful score. The worst score in the league, though, with 40 points. There's a guy called Kevin Sogler, whose team's called Hardboard. Oh, no, there's another team. Matt Bowstring The Carp, that's it. Also 40 points. Matt, great weekend for you.
Brilliant. Brilliant way to celebrate the birthday, wasn't it? Yeah. Great way, yeah. Yeah, no, look, I came into this game week. I didn't like the look of my team. You know, I had free transfer. You know, Salah was out. Could have brought in Bruno. Could have brought in a number of players that would have done a whole lot better than most of the players in my team. Ended up captain Aubameyang. Did nothing. Yeah, I think that the highlight. My defense was awful, so I needed to make a change at the back. I took out Trent and I put in Maguire, so that was a clean sheet. I was mulling over taking Doherty out as he was self-isolating after picking up. Or I don't know if he picked up coronavirus or if he's just self-isolating from the international break. But yeah, we knew he was going to be out, so I was tempted to take a -4 to bring Chilwell in, and you know I wasn't convinced Chelsea would keep a clean sheet, and of course Chilwell, it would have been an extra couple of points because Chilwell got I think, did he get bonus points? Yeah, he got 1 bonus point, so I would have made a 1 point gain. But look, I'm just happy I took out Trent, I put in Maguire, so that was already it was
a good decision
points.
in the end, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 40 points, it was a bad game week, could have been a lot worse. So yeah, I mean, I'm on Wildcard this week. You have heard me beating on about it the last few weeks saying, you know, I feel like my team is kind of like a rowboat with a hole in it, you know, I'm kind of bailing
It looks
out water.
like it, mate. It really does. I'm looking at it now, and I have to say, it's kind of like someone, you know, cut and shut when people put 2 cars together. It's like someone's done that 8 times on your team.
It reminds me of that scene from Father Ted, you know, where they get the car and there's a dent on it. And he's like, "Oh, I'll just tap it out on this side," and before you know it, the thing's ruined. That's my FPL team. I've made too many changes. I'm sat here thinking, how did it get this bad? So yeah, and then like just to top it off, you know, Zaha ruled out. I was looking so forward to that game. I was like, you know, everyone's played, like most players have played in other people's teams, all the guys who can do damage. Zaha, 30% ownership, you know, probably a lot lower in the top 10k. You know, I was super stoked, and then the news came out, you know, he's, you know, self-isolating, so that was a big disappointment.
That's precautionary as well, apparently. Precautionary.
Yeah. So I had Basuma's brilliant 1 point coming in, so yeah.
Sterling doing the magic.
It was dreadful. Like 3 of the players that I had starting were benched. I had Brewster, who I thought, you know, okay, that's fair enough. I kind of expected that. Sterling, you know, again, it wasn't out of the realms of possibility. But Mitrovic, I was so disappointed he was benched as well. And then it just went from bad to worse. You know, Fulham got the penalty. I thought, here we go. He's going to get his confidence back, get back on penalties, and then. Who was it? Was it Loftus-Cheek?
No, it was Camara, was it, or something like that? Kamara?
No, it wasn't Kamara.
Cavallero.
Yeah, Cavallero. Yes. And he slipped when he took it. It was dreadful. I was like, Jesus. So yeah, it was one of those weeks. Like I thought, you know what? Saturday's out of the way. Bruno's pissed me off. Everyone's pissed me off. At least Sunday and Monday is going to get better, and it didn't. It didn't get better, you know.
What a wonderful birthday weekend for you.
Yeah,
mate.
it was brilliant. It, like, you know, had you told me it was going to be a memorable birthday, I wouldn't have thought it meant this way. Like, you know, maybe in a more happy way. But
it is quite funny because I was looking forward to Saha as well, because I think myself and you felt quite smug that we snuck Saha into our team with the fixtures coming up, that considering his price was going to, you know, return a number of points. So that's disappointing. You had a bit of fun on Twitter as well, didn't you, Matt? Did you see this, Will?
I've heard about it more than seen.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, look, I needed to vent. I needed to vent my frustration, you know. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek. It was a little bit half serious, half joking. But
you can't do half and half on Twitter, mate. It doesn't work.
No. You gotta go all out. So yeah, that's what I did after I got the reaction. No, look, people picking me up wrong on this. You know, they thought I was saying Fernandes was lucky to get points. He wasn't lucky to get points. He was lucky to get a penalty, is what my point was. You know, and
Man United, though, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the stats and we look back at the game, of course, Fernandes did deserve to get points. You know, he had, I think, just over 2 XGI, you know, expected goal involvement. You know, you take away the penalty, that's about 1.1, 1.25. You know, and most of that was assist potential. So, you know, he's looking at an assist most from that game. You know, so maybe 6 points, maybe bonus points, depending on whether West Brom get that penalty awarded. But yeah, I don't think it was more frustrating that, you know, people are going, oh yeah, Fernandez got like 22 points masterstroke. You know, you brought in the most obvious pick, you got him captain, and you got a jammy penalty. You know,
retaken.
Retaken, which, you know, was legit. I'm not disputing that. You know, the goalkeeper was off his line. I mean, if Jordi was here, we could probably discuss the run up and the stop, you know, which kind of forced him off the line. But yeah, I've no, you know, problems with the penalty that was given. At first look, I thought it was a bit harsh, but I could see why it was given. The retake again, I was more frustrated because I was celebrating it was after being missed and then it was retaken. So, you know, I kind of got ahead of myself there. But yeah, that was all fine. I just, you know, to me, Fred fells Gallagher just before they win the ball and the cross comes in and it's handballed. It's not reviewed. David Coote doesn't see it as anything to be concerned with. And that's really annoying. And, you know, people are like, oh, it's just bitterness, it's sour grapes. Well, it's not. I mean, if you like football and you see such a ridiculous decision, you know, which that could be a point that means West Brom stay up, or, you know, who knows at the end of the season. It's very, very frustrating, you know, as someone putting aside FPL who just likes football. You know, it's not nice to see such a big decision, you know, change the game like that, you know, for basic refereeing just going out the window.
Typical Man United decision, that, isn't it? Typical. Penchester United, they're being called now, aren't they? I don't know. All right, so coming from one awful weekend to someone who's now living in Colombia and a Spurs fan. Let's talk about Spurs, Will. Come on.
Well, I was going to segue from Matt's point, because actually I was going to defend a bit, because West Brom, everyone criticised Spurs for their performance against West Brom. But I mean, it's fairly obvious to say goals change matches, and Spurs didn't score until the 88th minute. And you look at the Manchester-West Brom game, and I felt, especially start of the second half, West Brom were beginning to hold their own in the game, you know, had that penalty chance. If it hadn't been for that goal conceded, and then after that goal was conceded, Man United have, you know, a bigger XG. They get better chances because West Brom were opening up and going for the game a bit more. And Spurs were criticised. There were stats that were saying, you know, in the first 4 game weeks, Spurs did very well, and their form had dropped off in the last 4 game weeks. And this is what sometimes you've got to be careful with stats, I feel, because you've got to look at the context in which they came from. So those first 4 matches, you've got, the Everton game, Spurs didn't start too well. Then they played Southampton, who played with that high line and just didn't adapt. Spurs kept breaking the trap, loads of great stats. Then they played Newcastle, who didn't have Sam Maximan or Lewis playing, so they just had no outlet. Then Spurs just kept going at them. Let's look at the Man City game, and there were lots of good things that happened in that match. I thought switching Son to the right wing instead of playing him on the left, because people were saying, oh, Son's going to be on the left. He's never very good, but when he's out wide left, well, firstly, we've now got Reguilon, who attacks down the left. So that allows Son to cut inside. He's excellent. And, you know, that allows Son to cut inside. But it was a masterstroke, I thought, whether it's Mourinho or his coaching staff, switching Son to the right, because then you've taken him away from Kyle Walker. So Kyle Walker's defending on the City right back. He's got pace. He'll be able to
super fast, man. Super
fast. And then you've got Cancelo as left back, who ultimately Guardiola does this thing of bringing his fullbacks inside the pitch. And he's not as fast. And you look at the first goal, it's a short, you know, Højbjerg plays the ball to Ndombele, a press-resistant midfielder. He turns, Kane comes short, taking both centre-backs with him. Son runs in behind and Cancelo's slow to react, and Son gets a goal. But it's great, you know, if that's Kyle Walker, maybe Kyle Walker's quick enough to get across if that's done from the other side. So it was, you know, the tactics were good. And I think this is what's so good about Spurs at the moment. We have a manager and a staff, because I think Sacramento also deserves a lot of praise.
Is this the assistant guy?
This is the assistant guy.
He's really good. He's really good.
He's incredibly good. And they can react to events. They can react to teams and adapt to teams in a way perhaps that Guardiola doesn't to the same extent. Or when he tries to do it, like he did against Lyon in the Champions League, they just look dreadful and don't know what they're doing. So I think there's lots of positive signs. So these matches are harder. I think Chelsea's going to be a very difficult match coming up this weekend. but Spurs can still do well because we've got so many different options across the pitch. You look at the midfield too. We had Sissoko playing, and I think Sissoko and Højbjerg, it's interesting because I'd like to see Ndombele and Lo Celso and Højbjerg rather than Ndombele, Sissoko and Højbjerg, because I feel that's more attacking. But then you look at where the threat that, Spurs have got a threat on the flanks now with Aurier and Reguilon, and the amount of time Sissoko covered behind Aurier or came across, that really helped the balance of the team. But if we're playing against a team that sits deeper, you could start Lo Celso and Ndombele. Lo Celso was great for Argentina during the international break, playing that kind of 8 role, which he can do really well, and he did do for Spurs last season. So there's a tactical flexibility there. And
you see his face there, Matt. He looked quite excited. He thinks he's going to win the league.
Yeah. Little glint in the eye there.
Yeah. So
I'm starting to believe.
Yeah, well, like you said, I did listen. I listened to someone the other day. It might have even been on 5 Live. And they were talking about the fact that Spurs do have a lot of captains throughout that team now, which is very much falls in line with the Jose Mourinho philosophy of, let's be winners. Let's not be nice boys anymore. Let's be winners and dominate. Oi, oi. Oh, sorry about that. I hate it when people do that. Hey, but I'm doing it now. Sorry, I'm just interrupting because I just wanted to check on you. You got everything you need? Good. Everyone's all right. Everyone's enjoying themselves. Good. I'm, of course, back here on my beach. Hey, people do say to me, why is there a beach? I go, well, why wouldn't there be a beach? Life's a beach. And then you marry one. Sorry, that's humour from the 1990s/2000s. Hope it didn't offend anyone. Not that I care, really. So back to football. It's great having a chat again with Will and Matt. And actually, because we haven't spoken for a while, it was quite a long chat, so I did have to edit out a few stuff. But Will had some very interesting things to say about João Sacramento, he's the assistant coach at Spurs. And he's had a very interesting journey. Not Will, João has had a very interesting journey to his job at Spurs. He started off as a video analysis and stuff. But I couldn't put it in. So what I might do, because I couldn't get it in. All right, that's what she said. Oh, sorry. So yeah, I couldn't fit it in. So I was thinking of maybe putting out like an extra or something. I don't know. I think about that. So if you see a little extra come out, like a 10-minute thing, it's worth it. You might think, oh no, not everyone likes Spurs and stuff, but it's actually a very interesting bit of insight. I might not, don't know. Of course, I didn't put out podcasts last week. Apologies for that. Technological failures was the answer to that. Apple were causing me strife, and I had to go for, I wouldn't say full Karen. No, because I'm very polite. But I did go, shall we say, full dad. Yeah. I was firm, but fair and respectful, and should always be nice as well. But I got it sorted, so that's good. Anyway, let's get back to the convo. I'm pretty sure there's something I was meant to tell you, but who knows, really? I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter. Back to the chat. Let's talk about changes we're going to make for this coming game. Is it game week 10? It's game week 10, isn't it, already? Is it game week 10? So we're like a quarter of the way through the season. Matt, you are looking to play your wild card.
Yeah.
This week.
Played,
finally.
Finally. It seems like it's been a long, long time coming. I put in a few players that were rising, because even if I don't end up getting them, at least, I won't be selling myself, short with the prices if I do decide to get them late on. So I've put in the likes of Bruno Fernandes. I think Grealish is in there.
Did you put Bruno in because you feel like you got to put him in?
Well, there's a logic to me putting him in. One, I do think he's a great player, even if he is getting some lucky decisions lately. I do think he's a creative player. I do think he's maybe not as important an asset as maybe Kevin De Bruyne, who it may come to a decision between Bruno and De Bruyne. And it's one of those classical kind of form v fixtures thing because, Bruno is in good form. If United score, you can almost put your money on it that he's going to be involved in some way or another. The thing is with City is they don't have great form. But if you look at their fixtures, if they are going to turn it around, it's going to be in these run of fixtures. So it's kind of a sword and shield type thing. You know, do you want to go with the sword with, you know, a bit of a risk on De Bruyne or Sterling or Aguero, or do you want to play it safe and, you know, play the ownership game with Fernandes? You know, I've dropped back down to like 600 odd thousand now, so it's kind of hard to say whether I need a sword or a shield pick at the moment. You know, we're still only a quarter way through the season. It might be better just to play it safe and then, you know, adjust as things go on, as we get a better view of City. If
they got Burnley this weekend.
Yeah, they've got Burnley. Yeah,
they normally spank Burnley, don't they?
They do
5-0 or something like that.
Yeah, their last few fixtures has been like 4-1, 4-0, 3-1, 5-1. You know, they've definitely put 3 or 4 past them in each fixture with relative ease. So yeah, I see a lot of people keen on Sterling. You know, last game out against Spurs, he didn't play. I guess we might see how things are tonight. City away to Olympiacos, what the lineup will tell us, whether what Aguero's fitness is like. So there's still a lot of question marks over City, but there's still a lot of attacking potential there as well. It's just it's knowing who to get, because probably gonna go off on a little tangent here, but you know, there's people who sold Salah last week for Bruno because it was the obvious move on paper, and that, you know, so now next week they have a decision to make whether to bring Salah back in, you know, or whether to hold on to Bruno. Then there's people like myself on Wildcard, or someone who might have 2 free transfers, whether they want to bring in Vardy, whether they want to bring in Sterling, there's a lot of premiums, there's a lot of fixture changes for players who are in form, maybe coming into tougher fixtures, and players who are maybe a little bit out of form coming into better fixtures. So I think we've seen this season that form trumps everything. You know, I brought in Aubameyang thinking Arsenal are playing a Villa, they're playing a Villa who's very leaky, and then they're away to a Leeds side who are very, very open. He done nothing. Arsenal haven't scored in a few games. And
Arsenal did nothing,
several hours.
They? I mean,
yeah, several hours of football they haven't scored, which is a big, big disappointment, obviously. So, you know, maybe not overthinking it and just going for the form players, regardless of fixtures at the moment, is the sensible thing to do. So these are all the questions and the dilemmas that I have this week on Wildcard. That's what I'm going to be spending the rest of the week thinking about.
So, Will, bringing you back in, you dropped, much like everyone, dropped Trent last week, didn't you? Is that a permanent thing? Because I think you mentioned to me before that he still might be worth a punt. But further to what Matt was saying about form versus fixtures, I mean, we could be waiting a long time for Trent to turn it around, right? But then again, Liverpool looked good the other day.
I think was disappointed. I think Trent's stats were improving. The reason I brought in Van Aanholt is that the fixtures change in game week 12, so Palace's fixtures go bad and Liverpool play Fulham, and hopefully Alexander-Arnold's fit by then. So I was looking at, I really brought Van Aanholt in as a placeholder for Trent.
Right.
Which is giving me a dilemma, because then Jota's looking so good.
Yes.
Robertson is in my team, and there's Salah. So it's like, which 3 of those 4 do I want?
Well, I think, was he 6.5 Jota? I mean, I know I brought him in early in the season, but I didn't expect him to be integrated so quickly, actually. He's definitely, because I was going to keep the Trent and Robertson duo, but actually, I'm quite happy to have Jota at 6.5 if he can perform just as well. And if Liverpool are not keeping clean sheets, it does change things. I don't know. Well, Ziyech, you've got Ziyech, haven't you?
I've got Ziyech. I'm thinking about selling him. Oddly.
Well, I was thinking about getting him. So what's going on? Why?
Man United against Southampton. So Spurs did well against them with this sort of high line defence that they play. Chelsea did well against them. And I think Man United will do well against them. So I'm actually thinking, I'm still keen on Rashford. It's difficult. I had Fernandes last season. He's obviously creative, and he obviously has the advantage of penalties. Well, most of them. He gave one to Rashford last night. But I just find Rashford a more exciting pick. I feel that he's
cheaper.
Running it. He's cheaper, but also I think more threatening when he runs in behind. He's more likely to get goals. And you look at Fernandes last night. And the goals he scored, I mean, they're not great chances. They're kind of like he's scoring worldies. And I kind of feel that, anyway, I'm looking at Rashford, I think looks a good opportunity against Southampton. I finished on the Liverpool point about how to decide between, because I think I probably would want to get Trent back when he's fit again. Because Jota, as well as he's playing, and I think Liverpool switched to a 4. So you have sort of Jota on the right, Salah in the middle with Firmino behind and Mane on the left. And Jota does represent great value, but who do you want to captain? Do you want to captain Salah? Have you got other captains in your team? If you've got another captain in your team, is it worth having Salah? Like if I'm going to get Vardy this weekend because I want to captain Vardy against Fulham, then I might get Jota as well. Or because there's no point having Salah if you're not going to make him captain. He's just too much money. A lot of decisions have got to be made. So Ziyech, so I would look at getting rid of Ziyech to get Rashford. If I wanted to get Rashford, if I wanted to get Jota. And I had this thing last season where the fixtures were just constantly changing. Suddenly it was like really good fixture for this team, really good fixture for this team, really good fixture for this team. And I kind of I feel like I want to take a few hits just to try and take advantage of those rather than play safe. So with like 4 players or 5 players involved in the Chelsea-Tottenham game, I don't think it's going to be particularly high scoring. I want to take some hits to work around those and bring some captains in and maybe work back them. But I mean, Spurs, if I'm saving my wildcard till game week 16, the fixtures changed for Spurs then. So I can kind of maybe go without Spurs until that point.
But haven't a lot of people taken out Son and didn't Yordi take out Son and Kane for this current period, which I feel was just, I mean, again, it's form versus fixtures, isn't it? Form. So I kind of get what your point was, actually. What you're saying, basically, is just follow the form and don't worry about the hits because the hits will take care of themselves.
Maybe, yeah. And I'm kind of more excited about... I do want to see more from City. City aren't playing badly, but they're not quite... they don't really have any great chances.
No, they're
Spurs.
Boring, aren't they now, I think?
I mean, they had that one chance early on where De Bruyne was in the area, collected a rebound, he spanked the ball against Jesus, who was lying on the ground in an offside position. And they had that great chance late on when Lloris made a good save. But otherwise, it's lots of little chances, lots of little things that aren't really, not like, clear-cut good chances. Yeah. So, I don't know, it's tricky. Liverpool excite me much more than they do Manchester United excite me more than them. And Chelsea, they've got this, the other thing about, so I've got Werner in my team. I'm thinking about getting rid of Werner just because he's played so much. And he was benched against Burnley before Pulisic was injured in the warm-up and he came on to play. And I sort of feel when Pulisic is fit again, you might get some rotation there with Werner, especially with the fixture schedule coming up. We've got so many matches in December. So it's a lot of juggling, a lot of planning, working out who your captain's going to be each week, all that kind of stuff will influence transfers. And
of course, you've got so much football during the week now. I mean, you got Champions League, Europa Cup. There was Monday Night Football. It just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop.
We've got a midweek game week coming up in game week 13. So
really? Wow. When's that? Is that in the new year? That must be the new year.
No. So you've got this week, we've got Champions League. Next week is Champions League, the round 5 matches. The week after that, Champions League round 6 matches, or Europa League. And then we've got a midweek after that, we've got a midweek Premier League. So it's December.
Yeah. And Friday Night Football this week.
Yeah.
Which is normally, a 4:00 deadline, which I do not like, I have to say.
No, it's later. Is
it later
2
this
matches
one?
on the Friday, yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, I don't like the 4:00 because it's not 4:00, is it? You've got to start thinking about 3:30. That's when you've got to say, and that's a bad time. It sort of came and went last time we had it. I was just like, I'll stick with that team then.
Tatty's truck, I got a truck, it's full of tactics. It brings me luck and you will suck, cause you don't have a Tatty's truck.
What other players, did you want to talk about any other players, Matt, in your wildcard debate?
No, I was going to just mention that I think my defence is fairly set. I'm going to get Robertson. Depending on how cash is, I'm either going to go with Laporte or Diaz off Man City. As much as Spurs did, play really well against Man City, they didn't allow a lot of shots in the box. I think it was 1 shot maybe. Now, obviously, Spurs made the most of that, like Will was talking about, with because the fullbacks took inside, they played more tactically, looking for the kind of quality of chances rather than the quantity of chances. Laporte had that goal disallowed because of the handball by Jesus in the build-up, so he was getting a little bit involved. Nothing major, but it's good to see him. You know, we know that Laporte always carries a little bit of goal threat. So I do think City's defensive underlying stats are better than we've seen in the results recently. And especially with the fixtures coming up, I don't see many teams threatening them as much as we have seen other teams recently. So I'm happy to get, you know, a City defender, a Liverpool defender, and then another guy in our group, Jonathan Kahn, JK. He put up a very good rotation, cheap rotation between three defenders. It's Aston Villa, Newcastle, and Burnley. And I've just actually shared that on my Twitter. So you can see the fixture list that it produces up for whatever it is, the next 10 to 12 game weeks. And it's really, really favourable. Starting, I think, with next week for Newcastle against Crystal Palace, who will be without Zaha. So that could be...
Will they, though? Because I read that it's just precaution. It was...
Yeah, I'm not sure on the UK, how the UK does things, whether it's they have to see out the full 10 days or what. So I think that will become a little bit clearer. But yeah, I mean, putting that aside, it's a lot of home games against the likes of Crystal Palace, Fulham, Newcastle, West Brom, you know, a lot of the kind of lower table teams. So, you know, there's a myth saying, or a lot of people say it's a myth, it doesn't work out. But, you know, I mean, combined, it's going to be 13.5 million roughly for those three defenders. Maybe a little bit more now that prices have risen. But if it saves me 1.5 million to put an extra premium player in midfield or a better striker up top, I'm happy to take that risk and have one defender each week from those lesser teams, you know, with a good fixture, and to take the gamble if it lets me get a better player.
I was going to say City defence. I mean, there was that goal Kane had ruled out for offside from a pass square ball across the box from Son that was a really nice move. There are other little chances Spurs had, but also goals change matches, and we took a lead after 5 minutes. We don't need to go gung-ho trying to get more goals. So I wouldn't say City not conceding many shots to Spurs is a sign that their defence is only good. But I do agree. I think the fixtures are there that you could easily punt on Diaz and Laporte.
I have to say I am a little bit worried about losing my Spurs players on Wildcard. You know, I like Will said, I think it is a logical decision over the next 3 games.
You get rid of the Spurs players?
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on...
Form. Yeah, you just said you come in here and you said form over fixtures, and now you're going to drop Son and
have you
Kane.
seen my team, Alfie? How every other player has form over the people in my team. Anyone is an upgrade. You know, I can't get them all in.
Well, I would say, I don't know. I've got them both. You've got them both, Will, haven't you?
I never had Kane. No, I was always with Werner. I had Son. Son and Reggie.
Well, I've got both, Matt, and I had 82 points, so it can happen. You've got to believe.
Yeah. I am a bit more reluctant to lose Son, you know. I'm a bit scared to lose Son because I think he's definitely more threatening. I know Kane has penalties and stuff, but Son kind of looks the main man. And especially it's, you know, a few weeks ago, well, not even a few weeks ago, the last few weeks I've been saying I kind of get Suarez and Sturridge vibes off the two of them, like from when those two players win the Premier League. Like, you know, if Spurs are going to score, it's likely going to be one of Son or Kane involved. And
your own advice. This is your own advice.
Exactly, and I'm going against that, and I'm saying get a grip. Like, why am I doing this now? But yeah, but then there is the argument, like Will says, over the next 3 games, the odds of Spurs scoring a heap of goals is a lot less than them scoring a heap of goals from the last few games. You know, given the fixtures and the different tactics and the way the game is going to be set up. So I really no idea, because there's about 7 players who can damage me who are in great form, and I've got to pick maybe 3 or 4 of them. You know, it's going to be FOMO either way of the 3 who I don't pick. I just
want you to think, Matt, right now. The results come in. Son scored 2 goals. What do you do? What do you do with your weekend?
Well, I'd probably cry like I did last week. You know. Yeah, but like. This is the thing. Like, I'm gonna have to leave someone out. I'm gonna have to leave maybe Bruno Fernandes out, and you know it's gonna be repeat of last week. You know he'll get a penalty, or you know he'll set up a couple of goals, and because of his ownership, it's pretty much game week over then at this stage. You know, before the rest of the team is even played, or you know anybody, like, you look at the fixtures this week, you tell me Son's going to score 2 goals. I'll say, okay, maybe he will.
No.
But then Salah could score 2 goals. Sterling could get a hat-trick, and...
I think you're right. I think there's other fixtures to bank on scorers. I just think, I don't know. Well, you guys have been doing this longer than me. I mean, you know more about trading, hop on, hop off, and trading in and out very quickly. But I don't know. I think sometimes you just have to accept that players aren't going to score every week. I don't know. He does score every week, though.
The reason I'm so keen on getting a City player in is just historically they seem to do very, very well against Burnley.
They really do. They really do.
Yeah, and I just feel like if you have a team where you know they're going to score 3 or 4 goals, you're missing out on a lot of points there if you don't have an attacker. It's getting the right one. Like, I mean, City could score 4 goals. De Bruyne could do nothing. It could happen. We've seen it before where maybe not as often as, as other games, but there has been times where City have scored 3 goals and De Bruyne mightn't get even an assist. So we don't know. It's all just picking the right players at the right time.
And Burnley have just had a morale boost. I mean, they were good against Palace and they held out to win 1-0.
So who knows?
So, okay, captaincy choices this week. You did all right last week, Will. You picked Werner, didn't you? I was very smug. Because I picked Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So, against Fulham, though, pretty straightforward decision, really, isn't it? So who are you going for this week, Will?
I haven't decided yet. So it depends who I bring in. Do I bring in Vardy and make him captain? Or do I bring in Salah and make him captain? Or do I make Rashford captain?
I think you want to make Rashford captain. Do you believe he's going to score against Southampton?
I think he might be too much of a differential captain. I think it would be... Ooh. We've got the Champions. Let's see how Liverpool do tonight. Let's see if Salah plays. Jota's looked like he might be getting a rest this evening. So
key player.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. So there could be a lot. It's really hard to say at the moment, but I think those are the fixtures I'm looking at: Liverpool, Brighton, Man United against Southampton, and Leicester against Fulham. I think those are the fixtures for captaincy.
And Matt, I know you haven't sort of chosen your final wildcard team, but in your mind, you must have a captain choice that you want.
Yeah, I have a good feeling about a City player. I'd love to bring Sterling in. I'd love to bring Sterling in and captain. I get a good feeling like Burnley are going to concede 3 or 4, as history tells us. And I do feel Sterling has a kind of a point to prove. Has looked a bit sluggish, maybe a bit out of form. Again, it's like we're talking about. Will the form turn around with the fixtures? It's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago we were talking about Vardy weaning himself back in, and he seems fully weaned back in at the moment. So
they didn't do too much the other day.
Yeah, true. I mean, away to Liverpool, it was always going to be a little bit tricky. But I'm probably going to be left with depending on what formation I play, whether it's 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, I'm going to have about 10.5 million, maybe 11.5 million for a premium player. It could be Vardy. Depending on whether it looks like Aguero's going to start, it might be a ridiculous Aguero punt. It might be a safer KDB pick. It might be a little bit off-field Sterling. So there's a lot of options there. Definitely those 4. If I lose Salah, it makes it a little bit easier. If I lose Salah and go with Jota, it makes it that little bit more flexible, a little bit easier to get in more premiums. It's just whether Jota is enough cover. If Jota can cover for Salah, there's this talk about coverage in football teams and stuff. Either the player's a good pick or he's not. So it's all about whether Jota can keep it up. But yeah, I get a good feeling about Vardy. I get a good feeling about the City players. I don't see myself being able to captain Bruno Fernandes, not because of my thoughts on him, just because I think Southampton have looked quite organised at times. I don't see United putting a lot of goals past them. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 at most if they're having an off day. But I don't see, Southampton have been fairly solid. They were doing well against Wolves. The second half, they kind of fell apart a little bit, as is kind of an occurring trend for Southampton. But yeah, look, I think it's going to be Vardy or one of the City boys, whoever I bring in.
Don't blame you. Now I'm starting to think, because I've got Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Dean. my Everton core. Leeds.
Yeah, I mean, why not DCL? You know, he's in fantastic form. He's the highest non-penalty XG in the league. He's, you know, confidence is sky high. You know, we know Leeds do concede a lot of goals. They shut out Arsenal. I heard they were incredible against Arsenal. Could have put 3 or 4 goals past them. They hit the post a lot of times. I didn't see the game, so I don't know how good defensively they were. But yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't bank on Everton defensively. No. Are you talking about Leeds? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, a bit of both. I mean, Calvert-Lewin, you know, I was just saying with Leeds shutting out Arsenal, are they starting to turn things around, or were they maybe a little bit fortunate not to concede? It didn't really sound like Arsenal threatened them that much. But I'm not sure whether that's down to Arsenal being poor or Leeds being good defensively last game.
I think I saw this. I saw a lot of things on Twitter. Like someone wrote how now with what's his face, Calvin Phillips, like who seems apparently is the world's best defensive midfielder all of a sudden. People are like, now he's back, Leeds a clean sheet. We saw a sign of that against Arsenal. And I was like, well, no, it was just that Arsenal were really, really, really poor. Like, that's fundamental. So you can't really tell. I don't know. A good side, Leeds, but I just don't know. What do you do with them? But I think you've got to pick their players and just stick them in your team and leave them. Yeah. Because who knows when you're going to score.
I think the main point this week is that, you know, I've seen it pasted around Twitter a lot. One of the guys in our group, the Fantasy Freak, he's even said it himself. And I think, I'm not sure if it was
Big Man Backbar now.
Yeah, Big Man Backbar, yeah. I think Late Riser might have said it as well. A good few people echoing the same thing. You know, this week there's such a plethora of captaincy options. You know, if you captain Vardy and he blanks, there's gonna be huge rank swings, you know, if the likes of De Bruyne hauls, if Salah hauls, if Fernandes again hauls, if, you know, there's going to be huge swings this week given the fixtures and the multitude of captains. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game week in that regard for captaincy.
Just touching on a player we haven't mentioned is Antonio, because he does a lot of the similar stuff, because only Antonio is the only forward to have got more ball recoveries than Richarlison. But whereas Richarlison winning the ball back doesn't necessarily mean Richarlison's going to score. It will probably be Calvert-Lewin, because Calvert-Lewin's just always in front of the goal, basically. But at West Ham, that's, you know, it is Antonio. Antonio is the main guy. He kind of works well to recover the ball and is also always in the right positions to score and get loads of chances. I think if he can stay fit, and everyone's sort of nervous about him because of his injury record, but if he comes back and he's fit, then he's another great value option.
Is he back for Monday's fixture against Villa?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Well, I like that, because the Monday means it gives him more time to recover, right?
That's a little bit.
The two fullbacks for West Ham have looked pretty impressive, Cresswell and Masuaku. They've both been pretty impressive lately.
Cresswell and Masuaku on the same side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the Cresswell thing's interesting. Have you noticed West Ham's play? What they do, they move the ball around to get Cresswell in position to whip a ball in, and it's an actual set piece. Not a set piece, but it's an actual tactical play they do. So he is going to get assists this season. Yeah, that's for sure.
Up top, I think I'm going to go with Watkins. We saw there was a bit of controversy there with Aston Villa and their penalty that was disallowed, but I think it's very, you know, telling that while the VAR check was going on, you know, it was a crucial moment in the game, and, you know, Ollie Watkins had the ball, and, you know, there was no hassle. He seems the penalty taker, and then obviously it was disallowed. So we've gotten a little bit of an insight there that Watkins will be the penalty taker, and, you know, he's in decent form. You know, I think Aston Villa will continue to score goals. They're definitely the best fixtures out of any other team for the next kind of 6-7 game weeks. So it's just a matter of who to get in, because I'm probably going to have Konza in defence. Grealish seems assert, and Watkins. But the thing is, Martinez is a really good option as a set and forget keeper. You know, you can just put him in with a 4 million and play him every week. But that's 4 Aston Villa players. I have to lose somebody. So,
but you never thought you'd be saying that beginning of the season.
No. I mean, Fernandes and Grealish in my team and all in 1 week. It's just crazy how things are developing.
Oh yeah, forget about your Grealish history. You should get Declan Rice in there as well, mate. Have the full set.
I might as well, just to complete the, you know, Yeah.
Anyway, thanks
But,
for looking after them for us. And then,
yeah. So my logic is, look, I can tap into some of these points, or I'm going to break them for about 3-4 million managers who have him in the team. So that's my logic about putting Fernandes and Grealish in. I'm either going to get their points or I'm going to break them. So beware.
The good thing about having those players in your team, though, I think personally, is the fact a lot of play goes through them. So that's what you kind of want. But I think I've definitely my team's definitely benefit from having having 3 top quality forwards. Definitely. I don't think there's getting around that. So
yeah, and Calvert-Lewin is going in there finally after weeks of not having him and hoping he was going to blank. I'm basically putting in all the players that I've been hoping are going to blank but haven't.
No,
like Fernandes. It's just, I think it's a classic case of stubbornness on my part. Like I was talking about a few years back, when I think it was Suarez was back with Liverpool and Bale for a short time. It was Bale as well. I said, they're not going to keep this up. They're not going to keep banging in goals every week, and they did. And my rank suffered as a result. So I'm not going to make that same mistake twice. I'm going to get in the players who are in form, and like I said, tap into some points or break them for everyone else. So.
What a lovely, lovely, lovely group of lads. Eh? Especially that Alfie guy. He's a hoot. There's Friday night football this week. So, as we discussed, not the early deadline, but there's still Friday night football, so that's worth bearing in mind. What are your changes going to be this week for game week 10? I was looking at my team, and I've been slowly building towards something, but then Ross Barkley got injured, and I wasn't meant to change him out yet. I got rid of Trent last week. It's freed up some cash. I got a lot of cash, actually. Wish I had that cash in real life. That'd be nice. Just thinking about stuff. What a stuff. So depending on how the Barkley situation goes, I might trade him out because I always have this voice in my head, and that voice is Will's, which says always trade out your weakest player, as it were. Because I'm doing this sort of defensive rotation thing at the moment with I brought in Nathaniel Klein last week for this week. And because Crystal Palace's fixtures have got quite a nice couple of games, I think they could potentially get clean sheets. But yeah, I'm thinking about Barkley out for. No, this isn't going to blow your mind. Diogo Jota. And I've just seen Liverpool lose 2-0, but he wasn't playing. He did come on sub. But you kind of get the vibe at the moment that Klopp feels he's the man. Jota is the man to inspire them to victories, and he's certainly busy. And he's certainly been scoring goals. So that might be it, but I'll be waiting until the last minute, of course, to make those decisions. I mean, who knows what's going to happen. Saha, I've got Saha. Oh, yeah, if he's still got the COVID, I might have to trade him out instead. Little bugger. Hey? Little bugger. Good. Yes, thank you so much for listening. And that's about it for this week. I'll speak to you next week. Good luck in your game week, and I hope you have a lovely time. Just in general, I'm off now to maybe eat some biscuits. I did purchase some custard creams. This may be sort of a left field choice, but they were, talking about value in players in FPL, the value of the custard creams, 45p. You kidding me? It's all sugar anyway with that stuff, isn't it? So 45p, top value. I'm going to captain the custard creams. Speak to you next week. Bye bye. FPL, I wanna be champion, or at least I'm gonna be top 10. Now there's this guy who plays the best at chess. If I beat him, that's relative success. Take it down now. Will I be Magnus, or is this madness? Will I be Magnus? I got to know, I got to beat that Magnus.